Hello, I'm the TrekLad, arbiter of good Star Trek, and this is my review of Star Trek Section 31. This is the 14th Star Trek film and the first to debut exclusively on streaming, arriving 9 years after Beyond. Set during the lost era between the undiscovered country and the next generation, the story follows Section 31, Starfleet's shady Black Ops division, as they enlist former Mirror Universe Empress Philippa Georgiou for a high-stakes mission recovering a mysterious weapon capable of unimaginable destruction. Forming an unlikely team with a ragtag group of galactic misfits, Georgiou ventures far beyond the safety of Federation space, where alliances are uncertain, enemies lurk in the shadows, and ghosts from her past threaten both the mission and the safety of the entire quadrant. The usual heads up, this review contains spoilers, so if you've not yet seen Section 31 and don't want it spoiled, maybe go check it out first before watching on any further. Like many long-suffering fans, my expectations were as low as they could possibly be going into this. But saying that, I hold the opinion that I don't think it's a good idea to judge an entire film based on a 2-minute trailer and a handful of posters. It couldn't possibly be that bad. Could it? Wait, turns out it can. Section 31 fails in almost every possible way. A cringe-filled nightmare fest, the film fails to add anything of worth to the universe. It fails as a new, fresh installment for fans, and it fails as disposable content for casual viewers, the uninitiated who, if they made it to the final credits, are probably unlikely to ever come back for anything with Star Trek in the title. And it looks like I'm far from alone in thinking this. Critically, the film is taking a pounding with a pitiful Rotten Tomatoes score of 24% and a 4-point rating on IMDb. The only installment of Trek with a lower score on the latter is TNG's second season finale, Shades of Grey, an episode I would gladly watch on repeat for 2 weeks than 1 second more of this embarrassing shit. Let's start with what I liked, which isn't a lot, if I'm being honest. It's a short film, clocking in at just 95 minutes, although that doesn't really mitigate just how excruciatingly boring this whole thing was. I was checking my watch barely 10 minutes into this thing, and I was begging to be put out of my misery before the hour mark. Michelle Yeoh looks like she's having fun, reprising her pantomime tyrant turned anti-hero character, although I think I probably would if I was earning her 20 million reported paycheck. Beyond that, I'm really struggling to find anything positive to say. Like I said, the film is a dismal failure in almost every conceivable way. Visually, it's a hot mess. Director Olatunde Onsansami brings his nauseating brand of terrible filmmaking from Discovery and turns the knob up to 10. The camera is constantly spinning and zooming and tilting in a desperate attempt to inject some fun into the film's bland and poorly choreographed action scenes. The film's choppy, machine gun editing evokes the feeling of being high on every known drug in the universe and then being roundhouse kicked in the head. There's no innovation, no creativity, and no attempt to make this film visually appealing. The script is somehow even worse. The dialogue is cringe, filled to the brim with modern speak and quippy one-liners that feel like writer Craig Sweeney got them from a combination of Urban Dictionary and ChatGPT. There is zero attempt to root the story in the ideas or themes that make Star Trek what it is. Instead, this film tries desperately to be something else. Anything but Star Trek. It's an imitation-grade Guardians of the Galaxy or Suicide Squad, the bad one, but with none of the charm or fun. It's almost as if the filmmakers were embarrassed to make a Star Trek movie, and if that really is the case, I kindly request they go away and find something else to ruin. The characters presented here are one-dimensional and utterly forgettable. Aside from Georgiou, no one has a satisfying arc or an easily discernible motivation. Who are these people? How did they end up working for Section 31? Why are they working for Section 31? What is at stake for them personally should they fail in their mission to save the galaxy? We don't get insight into any of this. What we do get is a rogues gallery of unremarkable stock characters with only the vaguest hint of a connection to the Star Trek universe. A stoic augment with a tragic backstory, stop me if you've heard that one before. A wisecracking shapeshifter who barely ever shapeshifts. A mech-suited meathead who sounds like a reject from a bad Guy Ritchie movie. And a discount Delton who gets killed off seconds after appearing on screen. Cool. The two characters who do make some sort of impression do so for all the wrong reasons. First there's Fuzz, a tiny alien housed inside a Vulcan robot, for some reason. He has an anger management problem, again for some reason, as well as an Irish accent that's so problematic and so awful. I just wanted to mute the film every time he spoke. And then there's Rachel Garrett, future captain of the Enterprise C, last seen in the classic TNG episode Yesterday's Enterprise. Her inclusion here is baffling for several reasons. Beyond her presence, there's nothing to indicate the film is set in the so-called lost era of the early 24th century, a setting that ends up feeling completely wasted. Worse still, the Garrett we get here bears little resemblance to the character established in TNG. Instead of the fearless captain we remember, she's reduced to a generic by-the-book officer with zero depth. Why did they use this character? It's so strange. I could go on and on about how terrible this film is. The nonsensical plot, the predictable twists, the rubbish main villain, the awful pacing, the groan-inducing bickering that constantly undermines the film's thinly sketched galactic stakes, the jokes that aren't funny, the forgettable music, the cheap-looking graphics and overall production, the stupid fake intellectual quote that opens the movie, Jamie Lee Curtis with shit glued to her forehead like she's lost a bet, and Trek's ever-troubling insistence that we accept the redemption of a genocidal dictator, a literal space Hitler who is reintroduced here, murdering her entire family and then later eating an eyeball. But none of that tops the film's biggest sin, its complete detachment from Star Trek. There's no exploration, no meaningful message or takeaway. This could have been any generic sci-fi action movie. Even the titular Section 31, the shadowy organisation so controversially introduced in Deep Space Nine, known for its morally questionable acts, is reduced to a cool group of misfits shooting things and blowing shit up and plotting a course to Yo Mama 4. There's no intrigue, no complexity, and no justification whatsoever for why this story needed to be told from the Star Trek universe. Star Trek Section 31 is a disaster. It's a film that not only fails to capture the spirit of Star Trek, it actively undermines it. Every aspect, from the direction, to the writing, to the performances, is lazy, uninspired, and completely devoid of any passion or creativity. Even the worst Star Trek films of the past have come with something worth liking. The motion picture had amazing special effects. The Final Frontier came with a great score. Nemesis and even Into Darkness packed impressive action scenes. This film has no redeeming quality whatsoever. I fucking hated this. This isn't just the worst Star Trek film, it's the single worst thing Star Trek has ever produced. I'm giving Star Trek Section 31 a 1 out of 10, and honestly, it's closer to a 0 than a 2. It gives me no pleasure making a review like this. I love Star Trek, and I want to enjoy all the things this franchise has to offer. I'm not like those YouTubers. You know the ones. The ones that moan and hate on everything, building their channels on sowing division and generating hate clicks. But I'm also not blinded by my love of Star Trek. I give praise to the good stuff. I always try to skew positive, but I'm not afraid to call out the weak stuff, the stuff that doesn't work, the bad Trek. And fuck me, is this a bad Trek? I've seen people online try to make the argument that we need to support Star Trek like Section 31, because if we don't, they won't make any more. But here's the thing, if that's really the case, and they don't make any more like this, then good, because I don't want Star Trek like this. This isn't some new bold take on Star Trek. Don't believe the lies they're trying to feed you. This is white label, bargain bin generic slop with the Star Trek logo slapped on it. I think a major course correction is needed. It's time for new leadership. Star Trek, under its current management, just isn't working, and the franchise deserves better. But for now, let's hope this film sinks into obscurity. Personally, I'm giving it a week, and in time, better, more creative, more passionate minds can steer this great vessel back into the light. But what did you think of Star Trek Section 31? Did you love it? Did you hate it? How would you rate it? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, subscribe for more Star Trek reviews, and until the next one, live long and prosper.